Richard Turner.
Richard Turner.
And looking with both eyes, I couldn't see how he did it.
Richard Turner, he does things that nobody else in the world can do with cars. Nobody.
I don't call myself blind because I see things in ways that other people can't see.
He's in the Hall of Fame at the Magic Castle.
Don't let anyone tell you there's anything you can't do.
It was probably a little bit too brutal, but we didn't want it to be a gift.
Well, Shark, this is an exciting episode coming up. I have some exciting questions.
Oh boy.
Yes. Number one, can you tell us about your training regimen before taking on 10 fresh sharks?
It was intense. Of course, you heard what happened in my first bout. Green belt, ended up drinking out of the toilet, brown belt. I survived, but I felt like he gave me all girls. And I said I was not going to go through it that way. I wanted to do it the way everybody else did it.
And how old were you at the time?
I was now 10 days from my 30th birthday.
Wow.
It was literally June 6th, 1984. D-Day was June 6th, 1944. So this was my real D-Day, exactly 40 years to the day when we landed on the beaches of Normandy. I would go through a weight workout because I wanted a muscular skeletal. I wanted as much strength, body strength as I could without the bulk, but I wanted the power and strength. So I would do a weight workout for 4 hours, go all the way up to the maximum amount of weight I could, and then I'd take off the least I could, as many reps, do it again, as many reps over and over and over, and then take another 5 pounds off, as many reps all the way back down to I had nothing left but the bar. And I did that on every muscle group.
Wow. From
the bench, chest, lats, tricep, forearm, legs, everything. I would just go from maximum to the minimum. Then, after that was about 4 hours, I would do 500 kicks on the heavy.
You would do more after 4 hours of that?
That was my warm-up.
That was a warm-up.
So now I would do 500 kicks on the heavy bag out of a bag that it was the equivalent of hitting a 300-pound person. And it would be hanging in my gym at the time. And so I do 10 roundhouse kick this way, 10 this way, 10, 10, 10, 100. You know, anyway, I do basically five different kick combinations with both legs, another 500 kicks. Then I would put on my bag gloves, and I had my trainer, David Carmenito. He would carry one of those little, looks like a motorcycle seat. It actually has 2 hold handles here and a handle here, and you slide your arm through it and then hold it here, and you hold it against your body. And it looked like a motorcycle seat. And I would have to chase him kicking it, and I'd have to do 100 kicks. He'd count them off, and I'd have to try to get them in 3 minutes. So I'd do 100 kicks, then he'd give me a first couple rounds, 10-second break. 100 kicks, 20-second break. Another 100, 30-second break. But I had to do that 10 times, so that was another 1,000 kicks.
Wow.
Then I would strip off my bag gloves and my hot stuff, and I would then run 5 miles, and I would run down Mission Valley Road, if I remember right, which is like a mile down and a mile back up. It was a long run, and the hills in San Diego are hilly. The hills are hilly.
That makes sense.
It makes sense. And the only obstacles were cars and curbs that I kept running into and tripping over. So I had to be careful as I run, and all of a sudden, bam! There dang it! Flat on my face again, or some car I'm just slightly off. Anyway, so like I said, I'm running through cartoon images.
Right.
And so then I would get back from doing that. Then he would have a stopwatch, and I'd do 10 quarter-mile wind sprints, which was 1 loop around the block. We had it measured off, and I had to do it just all out, just like a wind sprint. And a 50-yard wind sprint is hard. A quarter-mile wind sprint is desperate. And then usually by the 7th or 8th wind sprint, at that point, I would vomit.
I think I would pass out way before that.
Yeah, that was close. And so I'd try to, and I'd have to do the last 2. But there were a number of times that by that point, I would vomit. So the whole workout was basically 7.5 to 8 hours nonstop.
And
Then-
sharks love water, but you are not allowed to take a drink.
No, that's true.
Wow.
Murphy, that was just the way it was back then.
Wow.
We did not.
Is that healthy?
Probably people would argue that it's not. But
Don't you need water to function
Yeah,
while you're
yeah.
working out?
Yeah, people would probably argue that was not
Yeah.
the best.
Well, you're still here,
or the
so-
smartest. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
But I had to train myself, and I trained myself to do things, not blink. Now I'm trying to retrain myself to blink, because back then, once again, I've described my conditions over and over. But if I just did a blink in that time, boom. And so I trained myself not to blink. I never blink. And I'm trying to retrain myself to blink, but I don't know how quite to do it. So I still don't blink. And the other thing was to train yourself not to have the sensation of thirst.
Right.
And today I can still go 2 hours nonstop, full energy without having the sensation of thirst.
Wow.
So that's just the way it was down
Yeah.
in Tijuana. You never had the opportunity to stop, take a drink, plus toilet water's not that great. And that's 7.5 hour workout, never took a drink.
Wow.
And then when you're in the dojo for 2.5 hours, it was not a big deal.
Right.
And during those fights, you never got a drink. They would have a water bottle and just give you enough to moisten your lips, but that was it.
And what was your weight then, and what is it right now?
My weight then in 1983, before my test, I weighed 168. When I took my 4th degree black belt, I was pushing pretty hard on the weight. I was like 49 years old. I weighed 170. When I got my master ranking a few years later, I weighed 168 and 7 ounces.
Wow.
As my father-in-law said, if you just would have went pee, you would have broke even. And then when my wife weighed me about a week ago last Sunday, 168 on the dot. So
Wow.
168 on the dot. So dot.
Yeah.
So 40 years later, I weigh to the ounce what I weighed 40 years ago.
Precision as usual.
Precision, that's right.
Now-
I figure, but here's the way I look at it. If you don't stop, you don't have to get yourself back in shape. Like I said, I'm headed to 70, and we've worked out many times together, and I just...
Well, you worked out and I passed out.
well, somebody had to.
Yeah, that's true.
And of course, I'm the old one, so next time I'll do it for you.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Now, what were some of your stretching exercises so you could kick those other sharks in the head?
Yeah, they called me Gumby. I was very flexible. And I started in high school in our stretching class, but I could pin myself against the wall, take my right leg and touch my foot to the wall behind me.
Wow.
That was not that big of a deal. But I could also, on the stretching machine, I could do like 190-degree split, 180 is straight out.
Oh, there's stretching machines. I never used one.
I think Bill Superfoot Wallace is the one that first came out with it. Well, I have one at my house.
Oh.
Yeah, we just have it in another part of we don't have it in the proper gym because Kim doesn't want it in the gym anymore. Also what I do is I would stretch myself across 2 chairs like this with into the full splits, and then I touch my head to the floor.
Wow.
That was a good stretch, and now you'll see me do it. There's videos out there of me.
I've seen
doing it.
I've seen the chair one. I've seen that chair one on your DVDs.
Yeah, in fact, we have pictures of Kim and my son and I, all 3 of us together, doing the splits in a row.
Do you ever do a family portrait like that?
Yes,
like you're all dressed nice?
Yeah,
That's
we have a family portrait of all 3 of us on the ground in the American splits. There's a difference. These are the Chinese splits. These are the American splits.
Oh, okay.
The American splits are easier to do than the Chinese splits, which is side to side.
And of course, you did the Chinese splits.
And these were the we were doing the American splits when we did it as a family because we couldn't do it the other way.
Oh, gotcha.
We'd have to have one in front of the other, and the people in the back would be blocked out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, what were some of your weight records and training records to hold up against those 10 different sharks, those hammer sharks, those
hammerheads.
Hammerhead sharks.
Yeah, those hammerheads. Yeah, well, Gene Fisher, as I mentioned before, he was my trainer, and he got me pushing. When I weighed 145, I could bench 250. And then years later, I maxed out at 340 on the bench press, which was virtually twice my weight. And one of the things I was kind of pleased with is push-ups. I was a push-up maniac. Grandmaster Roy Kerben would just laugh. If you're late to class, he'd make you do 50 push-ups, which with me was like taking a breath of air. And he goes, you know, that really doesn't make any difference to you, does it? My workout partner, Gene Holtman, at that time, every workout, we would do 500 push-ups in one set. And this is what Gene said. He said, I've worked out with Mr. Turner many times, and we did push-ups, and we only had to do one set of 500 reps, And my record is 500 push-ups in 12 minutes, 9 seconds. And that means you can't stop, you know, at some point and keep going. You're usually cranking the entire time. And one demonstration I used to do is I'd have a woman sit on my back, and I'd have them with their buttocks between my shoulder blades, so all their weight is on my back, and their legs would stick out straight over my head, and I'd do my push-ups. And the hardest one I ever did was a woman that weighed 169 pounds. And curl. And Gene Fisher, that was his thing, was curl, so I loved the curl. And I had tremendously strong arms. Grandmaster Roy Kerben will tell you, he was there when I'm free weight curling 175 pounds, and he called me a maniac. He used to say, you have an 8th degree black belt in weightlifting. And coming from Grandmaster Roy Kerben, who is one of the most successful fighters in the history of our country, I was very pleased when he would say that with me. Yeah.
Now, I heard that you had to bite sharks with assorted styles of teeth. What's that about?
Yeah. Well, during the test, I had to fight 10 men in a row, fresh person each round, and only 4 of the people I knew. The other ones I knew of. But there were only 4 people from my school that were not going to try to kill me, but they were going to give me a good fight. And so I had to fight people with, like I said, different fighting systems. So you had to be able to hold your own. If we were a Japanese hardstyle. One of the guys, he was from a Kempo system, and another guy was so there was different styles that you had to adapt to. Right. Because Murphy had a bunch of the other schools.
Kind of MMA.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He had a number of schools come in to add, because we needed a number of fighters, and we needed a nice audience.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Now, your sensei had a warning for you that was hard to swallow, harder than a big guppy.
Yes, he says, when you're taking on 10 fresh fighters, and they're all tough, and they're all out to get you,
You're going to pay a hefty price.
That was his words. He actually says it in the movie Dealt. And guess how that made me feel?
Great.
Scared.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, am I going to die? I've already died enough times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it put a little fear in me.
And I understand that the card shark status brought in the media.
Yep.
How did that happen?
Because I was a recognized entertainer at this point. You know, I had been on That's Incredible, Ripley's Believe It or Not, you know, a number of national shows and many regional shows and written about. So I was recognized, and so the media were there to cover the event. This guy, Richard Turner, getting ready to take on 10 men. And ABC and one of the biggest papers in the country, the Los Angeles Times. Everybody knows the Los Angeles Times.
Now, what did you do to protect those card dealing fins?
Well,
because there's a lot of hazards in a thing like that.
I've got this criticism all my life. Jason England, my buddy, he would say, yeah, Richard's kind of a contradiction. Here he is making his living doing delicate moves with cards. And on the other hand, he's using his hands to punch bags and people's chins. He said, it's the worst thing you can do to your hands. Yeah. And so I've got that criticism all my life. Yeah. Because I had 2 dreams. 3 dreams, really. 3 dreams. One was to be able to play cards like James Garner. 2 was to kick like Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee from watching those old shows. And the other was to have strength like Charlton Heston had in the movie Ben-Hur. So those were my dreams. So I was doing 2 totally opposing different things. Karate man, card man. And so that was kind of it. And then the media, they were there. And one of the first things he goes is, he says, well, you're legally blind. How can you possibly fight? And of course, I was ticked that he had to bring up that subject. Yeah, because
It happened all the time at that.
I know it. In fact, if you watch Delt, you'll see clip after clip that they found of me, someone bringing up the subject, and apparently you can see on my face, that I instantly turned mad. And because I didn't like the theme, handicap makes good, I wanted what I do to stand on its own. So part of it was probably arrogant, ego, and chip on my shoulder.
Right.
Say whatever it is, and I accept whatever you want to call that.
You were just in that period of your life where it bothered you, and you grew out of it.
And I grew out of it, thanks to my wife. But so he says, how can you possibly fight? And of course, I was ticked that he asked the question. And when he said, how can you possibly fight? I said, I always give my smart aleck reply. I said, I don't know. Sit and watch.
Now, you then had some more encouragement from your sensei. What was that about?
Yeah, shortly before the fight start, Sensei says, relax.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Relax.
Yeah.
Mr. Turner, relax.
Yeah.
All you have to do is come out alive with spirit.
What does that mean?
Alive with spirit.
Yeah.
I said, exactly, what does that mean, alive with spirit? He said, even if your teeth have been punched down your throat, you're still smiling. So in other words, you got beat up, but you come out, well, wasn't that nice? That's what I meant, alive with spirit. No teeth, but you're happy about it.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
now,
joy.
And at this point, I bet the media had some typical questions that you would hear.
Yeah. And as I was just mentioning, they was asked, what's your vision? And I said, well, it's 20 over 400. And they said, what does that mean? And to put it in technical terms, 20/20 is, at 20 feet, you see something. Okay,
right.
20/20, that's normal vision. 20 over 200 means what you see at 200 feet, I have to have 20 feet away from me. Okay, 20 over 400 means what you see at 400 feet, I'd have to have 20 feet away from me. So if it's a card, if the card is 400 inches away from me, 20 over 400 means I have to have that same card 2 inches away to see in the same way you would see it, okay? And even then, that was nothing zero on the forward, but off to the side. So they asked me those questions, and like I said, I just
it's almost like most of them weren't creative in thinking beyond the basic kind of questions that they could ask you.
Oh, yeah, or it's sensationalism.
It's like lazy reporting.
Well, I think it's
just, you think it's sensational.
He
can't see.
Yeah, exactly. And,
got it.
And
they're trying to get viewers and things.
Exactly. So I understood that, but even that didn't make me happy, but I understood it.
Do you know what time it is? It's the Sharks' D-Day, June 6, 1984. Tell us about round one. Ding, ding.
Ding, ding. Here comes John Douglas, and he's my buddy and my brother and still
he'll
is.
be nice to you.
Yeah, right. And he was, and John Douglas could have killed me at any point.
Wow.
I mean, he was one of the toughest fighters in the country.
With all that training, he still is just at a different level.
Oh, he was a different level.
Wow.
Oh, he was a heavyweight, and his punch was measured at 1,700 pounds per square inch.
Wow.
If I remember right, Ali's punch was 750 pounds per square inch, and Ali had fought the Japanese guy whose punch was measured at 1,200 pounds per square inch. And we actually had in our dojo one of those things, you punch it, and it would show you 1,400 pounds per square inch, and John's punch was 1,700 pounds per square inch. And if you watch that old Rocky movie, Rocky IV, with that big Russian.
Yeah.
And this is
Dolph
fiction.
Lundgren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is fiction. And in that movie, his punch was 1,700 pounds per square inch.
Wow.
And Douglas's was for real. And this was long before that movie came out. So, and Douglas has over 200 knockouts to his credit.
Wow.
Mostly because for years he was a deputy sheriff. And whenever there's any trouble, they'd call in Douglas. And Douglas was just, he was like a rabid dog.
Wow.
A dog with rabies.
That's crazy.
I mean, he fought anywhere. If you pissed him off in any way, he would come after you. And he kind of mellowed through over the years. But bottom line is, he could have taken me out, but he wasn't nice to me. You can watch it I mean, I'll give you a couple highlights.
Okay.
First round, he's dressed in all white.
Right.
Okay. And of course, we had the media there. There was lights to show up,
Right.
everything. And so I'd come in, and I see this white target, and I attacked the lights. I thought the lights was John. So you see,
This is a literal highlight.
This was a highlight.
Yeah.
The highlight was me attacking the light. And so I run into the lights. They start falling over. Someone grabs them, and my ring man was Lap Napoleon. His name was Lebanon Augustus Napoleon. He was a Samoan. Big guy, dangerous guy. And unfortunately, he was not one of my fighters, but he was my ring man. So whenever I'd get faced in the wrong direction, he'd turn me around, shove me out back into danger. And I came in there, and Douglas throws a punch, catches me in the face, I drop my guard, and bam, he catches me with a side kick right in my solar plexus, wide open with a kick the wind out of me. And I thought, first round, I'm already in trouble. But somehow I managed to make it through that one. Ding, ding, ding.
Round two. Highlight. Give us that highlight.
Round two was Terry Crook. Terry Crook, another tremendously talented fighter.
Was he nice to you this time?
In his own way. Rest of the test, during my 1 minute breaks between rounds, I kept asking everybody, is my nose bleeding?
Oh, okay.
Which was, once again, he could have killed me at any point. He could have taken me out. He was a heavyweight and extraordinarily skilled.
Yeah.
And but he wasn't too nice. And one of his, you could see it.
Yeah.
You know, he catches me right in my blind hole. You hear this, and that was his jab popping my nose. It hurt like crazy, and I thought, I'm going down to number two, round two. I'm going down. This is what's shooting through my brain, and I'm sitting there thinking, it's only pain. Pain is only something that's hurts. I'm not going down, and we continue. And of course, he nailed me a number of times in the groin. You keep hearing this, pop, 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 and that was my testicles. Given a test.
Busted nose, solar plexus.
Oh, and his favorite thing was a step-up heel hook followed by a roundhouse kick.
Wow.
And he was very talented with that. And he was actually a ranked fighter. I think he was ranked in Black Belt magazine and in Karate Illustrated as one of the top fighters in the country at different times in his life. Only good thing I can say is towards the end of the round, I caught him with a left-hand jab, and I caught him with a sweep, and he fell to the ground. So I knocked this big old guy down. And as soon as he fell to the ground, he hopped back up, and he was angry. And I'm glad they went time, because in our school, if someone kind of gets you and bests you in a way, I knew I was going to be in trouble. Murphy immediately, you see him on tape, immediately took Terry and pushes him aside away from me before he has a chance to counter. And of course, that round was over.
You finished that round. He got Terry away from you. You're in a safe zone. Bell rings. Next round. Tell me you get a little bit of a break in round three.
Round three was a fighter named Kimko. Kimpo, but it was Kimko. K-I-M-K-O, Kimko. Very talented man, but he was my weight. He was about 5 inches taller than me, 6'2" or so.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, but he was my weight. But he was fast and wiry.
Right.
And whenever somebody would throw, he was swiping at my right side with a roundhouse kick. And as soon as the kick is up, I know certain parts of the body are wide open. Our school, everything's an open target. And he kept swiping at my right side with a roundhouse kick. Beep, 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 beep.
Right.
You know, doing these fast little things. And as soon as that's happening, I know certain parts are wide open. So I came in with a sweeping front kick, but I would swoop it up. And I literally kicked him so hard between the legs. If you watch carefully, you can tell that I slightly lifted him off the ground by his testicles. And they say his eyes bulged out of his head.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay, and then now the same
That's
similar.
not the only thing was bulging.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Painfully.
Yeah, iced for the next 3 days.
Nice. Ouch.
So then he tries the same thing again, wide open again, boom. Lifted him up again, and he said, he was in such pain. Afterwards, he told me he never wore a baseball cup when he fought.
Yeah.
So he was wide open.
Yeah.
And so he said, if it wasn't for the fact that he would have had to quit, and he was beat by a legally blind guy, a guy that was partially sighted,
Right.
and the humiliation that would have come from that, he would have quit. And so I managed to get through that because I got some really good shots in places that it mattered.
Now at this point, you must be primed and ready for the next round, round 4. This is where the shark starts to bite big.
Yeah. Well, round 4 was Diego Gonzalez, a wonderful man, a dear friend, still a dear friend today. And he was one of the best sweepers in the country. Sweeper means someone who could take you down by sweeping your legs out from under you.
Not a chimney sweep.
No, not a chimney
Okay,
sweep.
just making sure.
But that was his day job.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That makes sense then. That
Sweep by
sweeper,
day, sweep by night.
he sweeps everything the
Yes,
best.
exactly. He's the best sweeper. And so I've never seen him in a fight, no matter who the fighter was, where he didn't take them down at least once. And so right out of the chute, he grabs, and he had the gloves on, but there was nothing covering his fingers. So his fingernails were completely open. He just had something that covered his knuckles.
Wow.
So he grabbed a big handful of my back, and literally after the fight, you saw I had 4 5-inch gashes ripped into me, bloody gashes, where he grabbed a hold of me and took that skin, swept me down, and I just grabbed him, pulled him down on top of me, and we wrestled and fight. We kept taking each other down, back and forth. And I was a pretty good sweeper, and I actually learned from him. I give most of my sweeping credit to my years with Diego. Many times I'd catch him. My favorite technique was what I call an overhand right. We call it a Murphy punch, where instead of just a straight on over a right, you kind of bend your elbow up, so if they tried to block, you can still drop down in on them. So I nailed him a couple times right on the chin. Caught him good, and I caught him with a spinning heel hook.
Yeah.
And nailed him good, but it was a very spirited round.
So that ended round 4. Ding, ding. Round 5, you are halfway there.
No, I'm not halfway there yet. After round 5, I'll be halfway there.
Oh, after.
Yeah, after
Good point.
this one, yeah.
I was just rounding down, math, you round down.
Yeah, you got to round it the
Can't
wrong
round
way.
down in this.
You can't round down, you got to, round down, I guess is better.
Yeah.
But I had Todd McEhaney, who was he was a 3rd degree black belt with Dick Willett's school, Kempo school.
Yeah.
And a very talented guy. Napoleon would tell me, he has hammers like sledgehammers. He had these big old, his fists literally looked like a sledgehammer.
Right.
And fortunately they were gloved, but they still felt like a sledgehammer. And Napoleon says, his hands look like sledgehammers and he knows how to use them. So watch out for his hands.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he was my size. And so when it's my size, it was a better fight. And so I went in there and we mixed it up. There a few times I charged him so hard I knocked him out of the ring. But I managed to survive round number 5.
Okay, that sounds not too bad of a round. What would the main highlight be from round 6?
Round 6, I fought a guy named OGI.
Yeah.
We called him OGI. It stood for Old Grouch.
Okay. Oh, this sounds like an easy round.
Yeah, well, he was the only guy that wasn't a black belt. And he had a strange style of fighting. He looked like a grasshopper hopping around, kind of hard to hit. Because like I say, it was just like a grasshopper. But finally, when I got a feel for his fighting style, I managed to get in there and I caught him with a couple sweeps, took him down in a few punches. But I survived that round somehow.
Somehow. Now, this is where things get a little dramatic. I heard that round 7 is where that shark took a lot of bites.
Yeah, round 7.
They can add up. I mean, a shark could take big bites, but...
Well, here's the thing. Think about this.
Yeah.
Think about, you have 10 rounds. If you just got hit 5 times, that's 50 blows to the body.
Right.
Face, body. It's a wear and tear. If you got 3 shots, if somebody hit you 3 times or kicked you 3 times as hard as they could, your body's, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
You're going to be suffering.
It's like compounding too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was never 3 or 4 shots.
Right.
It was always dozens as a rule. And the thing is, as the fighter, you had to reserve your kicks. That's why in kickboxing competitions, you have a requirement. I think it's either 6 or 8 kicks that have to be thrown every round because you get tired, and the last thing you want to do is lift your leg because it takes so much more oxygen out of your body to lift your leg and put it up there than it does to throw a jab. So that's why there's a certain amount of kicks that are required in a kickboxing match. So I'm trying to reserve some of that energy by not doing as many kicks as I could, even though kicking was kind of more of my specialty. But anyway, this guy's name was Gustavo.
Gustavo.
I know, he even sounds nasty. He looked like a bulldog that caught a car.
That's not good.
Smashed in
That's
face.
That's not a good combo.
He was about 205 pounds, so he outweighed me by, a good 40 something pounds.
There's a couple.
Yeah, heavyweight. But he was built like a fire plug, like a fire hydrant. And he was mean, and he made his living as a federale robbing Americans when they came across the border in Tijuana.
Wow.
That was basically his living, was robbing Americans.
Wow.
And so I told Mr. Murphy, I really didn't want him to be one of the 10, but Mr. Murphy is Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Murphy does what Mr. Murphy does. Yep. And not only it was not my first fight, he was my 7th fight.
Wow.
Golly. Anyway, so the first thing he does in the round, bam, catches with me a ridge hand right here in the right ear, and he ruptured my right eardrum.
Wow.
So now, now that
you're having hearing problems now.
I'm having a ring, ding, 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 ding.
Ow.
And balance, it kind of messes up your balance a little bit. So then he continues to charge in. After every exchange, he had me on the ground within 5 to 10 seconds after every exchange. Right away, he would sweep me down, and every time I went down, he would try to stop me with his foot. And it would take 5 to 6 referees every time to pull us apart.
Wow.
Because, he was just trying to get in cheap shots. And so as soon as we stand up again, charge in, he would just take me down. And sit there, you see him just trying to stop me. And then finally, and of course I always had my gloves here to protect my cheeks. And so I didn't have to worry about seeing the punches coming. And I always had my elbows tucked in to protect my ribs. So I was always at my chin down to watch for uppercuts. So I was, trying to close up as many targets as possible. So I'm like this, and all of a sudden he throws a roundhouse kick that's so hard, he hit me right here, and you can actually feel the spot right there where he broke the bone.
Wow.
So he snapped that bone, and all of a sudden I'm going, ouch. Yeah. Except I didn't quite say, ouch. I went, dang, it hurt. And you can see me, if you watch the tape carefully, we had a little forearm guard, and you can see me trying to adjust it down there to cover that pain because it was burning like crazy. And so, bottom line is, I fought the next 3.5 rounds with a broken right arm.
Now, I heard 6 weeks later you bit him back, though.
That is so true. So here he was, a bad guy of the first order. And 6 weeks later, he comes into the dojo from Mexico. He's in Mexico school. I'm in the Tijuana school. I'm the San Diego school in Bonita with John Douglas. And he comes swaggering into the dojo. I had 6 weeks, elbows better, bruises are better, I'm healed, but yet I'm still in top fighting condition. And I said, hey, Gustavo, let's go a few rounds. No fight. I said, come on, a few rounds. Oh, no mas. I goaded him so many times. I said, what? Are you afraid of fighting a visually impaired person that hasn't already had 6 other people beating on him before you got in the ring? Are you afraid of me? And so I goaded him to the point where he said, okay. And so we're going at it, and I have to say, I should not have taken him on in the way I did. I just went in bull to bull, 168 pound against a 205-pound guy. But I dropped him, nailed him, another exchange, dropped him again, nailed him. I dropped him 4 times. And finally, Douglas says, all right, Mr. Turner, you've proven your point. That's enough. You got your revenge. And it was sweet.
Sharks love sweet
treats. Sweet revenge. I got him back.
Shark?
And then he ended up murdered.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
5 of the people that were part of that day ended up dying of unnatural causes.
Unnatural
causes. And he was one of them.
I'm not even going to ask.
Yeah,
That's
I know
dangerous.
exactly. He ended up murdered.
Wow. Well, good news. We're at round 8. There's only 3 more to go.
Yeah.
It's all downhill now.
Yeah,
you went uphill. It's downhill
Now
time.
you can say it's downhill. Except
What happened?
My heart has been pounding at, 195 beats a minute.
Ringing in the ear, broken arm.
Yeah,
Did
exactly.
they bandage it up at all, at least?
Nope,
Wow.
nothing. There was a doctor on call, Joe Bob, we called him.
Joe Bob.
And Dr. Foster was his primary. But he checked out, it's likely snapped. And he said, we should stop the test. I said, no way, I didn't go this far to stop.
Yeah.
But that was the one round we just went through. So now I'm entering round 8 with Rafa. Rafa, and he was about even-sized fighter, talented fighter, and we were mixing it up good. And the thing is, now instantly we're in clinches. Almost every fight.
Yeah.
That's why it's part jiu-jitsu, because almost every fight within 20 or 30 seconds, you're on the floor or you're in a clinch.
Oh, every fight.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's why they say statistically, most fights end up on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And when we fought in the school, it ended when you either had the person by the eyes, by the throat, by the groin, arm bar, or something like that. That's when the fight ended. But for these tests, Murphy, for the most part, stopped it when it went to the ground or when we were in a clinch.
Right.
Because when you're in a clinch, you're sitting all these cheap shots.
Yeah.
You're trying to elbow them, you're trying to rabbit punch them in the back, and all the cheap shots come in when you're in a clinch. So we're in a clinch. And Murphy says, Yame, stop fighting. And so I'm starting, as soon as I relax, Rafa takes his knee and rams it up right between my legs.
Oh, no.
Smashes his knee into my cup, that smashes my cup into my testicles, into my groin.
This sounds like karma from the earlier round where you did it to the other guy.
Yeah, exactly.
A little karma.
And so all of a sudden I am in pain like a fire hose hydrant shooting out water. That's what it felt like.
Wow.
An explosion of pain. I'm literally in a standing 8 count.
Yeah.
You can see me on the tape with my hand in front of my groin going, I was ready to drop.
Yeah.
And Murphy gives you 8 seconds to recover.
Wow.
I think he was nice. He gave me 10 seconds. And he
Nice
goes,
guy.
he says, are you ready? And all I'm doing is going, right. And then as soon as he didn't give me another one, he just says, Hajime. So now I went from here, turned, and I ran. We ran each other down.
Wow.
I grabbed a hold of him. He said, Yame. And I took my knee and I rammed it up between his legs. And guess who got balled out for it? Me.
What?
Yeah. He turns and he says, I just told him no shots after I say Yame. Don't you do it too. Oh. I said, I had the right to return the cheap shot. Yeah, fair is fair. Anyway, so and then on the next exchange, I caught him with a really good heel hook, spinning heel hook, one of my best shots. Anyway, so I survived round 8.
Oh, yeah? Well, I have bad news. Ding, ding, ding. It's
ding.
ready. Time for round 9. No breaks. Get in there. What happens?
Next is John Murphy's son, Shawn Murphy.
Shawn Murphy.
And I always say this guy had heavy legs.
Yeah.
He was a champion off-road bicyclist. Where they'd do these big long rides in the dirt with these dirt bikes. So he was very strong. And of course, he started karate when he was like 2.5, 3 years old.
So he wasted the first 2-3 years of his life.
Well, he was probably kicking at his mom.
Oh, that's true.
He came in and we were mixing it up. And of course, now I'm really running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
I'm dazed. My balance is off because of the ruptured eardrum. My arm is throbbing. I have these 4 gashes across my back that are burning, and my nose is bleeding. And when I got smashed in the nose, I asked Napoleon, is my nose bleeding? He goes, it's just snot. Suck it up. Suck through your nose.
Good advice.
And so he lied to me when he said that.
Yeah.
And so I have all these things, and I caught Shawn. I caught him, and I nailed him, and he goes, shit, Rick, good one, shit, good one. So I got a good one on him. And then we stood up, and I would just charge.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was charging at.
Yeah.
My ringman, Lap, he'd spin me around and push me towards my target.
Wow.
Because I'd just charge anything. Like I said, the first round I charged the lights.
Right.
So he'd turn me around and push me. Turn me around, push me. Watch him do it dozens of times.
Wow.
And I just go wherever he pushed me. I just go after that person. And of course I had to watch out for Murphy because he was the referee and all the other referees that were standing around. And finally they yell. Carmelo yells, "Time," which means end of round number 9. What do? I just turn around, charge him again. And I don't even hear him. I stand up, I charge him again. Finally, he had to pull me off the guy because I didn't even know, I couldn't hear, and my brain wouldn't register that the round was over. So now I have one more round to go.
This has to be a soft round. The shark needs a break.
I do, and unfortunately for me, it was a good one because this guy was smaller than I am, yeah, which was nice. But he was known for a jump, spinning, flying turn kick that he could take out a 6.5 foot man with it. And I was thinking, I'm too tired. I do not want any spinning jump kick in my face. So I went after him tight and hard. I kept throwing back fists. I'd grab his top hand and I came over with an overhand right. I caught him on the chin so hard, I literally knocked him out of the ring.
Wow.
The bummer on some of this is after I ran into those lights in round 1, to protect the lights and the cameraman, they put this guy named Dick Willett. He was the head of the Kimo system. And so you see this yellow shirt half the time blocking my good shots. But you can see my punch going in and you see his head on the other side of the guy's body fly backward. But I hit him so hard, he didn't know where he was.
Wow.
He's literally staring at the wall like this. Where am I?
Right.
And at that very moment, my gi bottom starts going down. And Shawn Murphy, Sensei Murphy's son goes, let it go down, roll the cameras. And Lap wants me to finish off with dignity, so he's pulling my gi up and tying me off. And then I get back in the ring with this guy and I caught him again, bam, nailed him with another overhand right, just knocked the snot out of him. And then finally they yelled, Tiempo.
Now at this point, were you tired at all?
Not at all.
Oh,
I was
good.
dead.
Oh.
I was tired. You figure my heartbeat has been going 195 beats a minute, pretty much nonstop. That would be like sprinting up a hill with someone on your back.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and so
what
that's
happened at this point?
Well, as soon as they said time, bam, I hit the floor.
Wow.
And I was glad to hit the floor. I hit the floor, and of course now they're trying to strip my gloves off. Napoleon unties them. I had 12-ounce boxing gloves on, strips them off, takes the things, and now I have to get ready to bow out. And he takes me off, and of course I'm covered with sweat. My hair's all
This is
matted
where you
down.
get your black belt, right?
That's what's there, but I had to clean up first for the presentation. So, and as Napoleon's wiping me down, all of a sudden, and then he lifts up my tank top, and there were those 4 gashes, bloody gashes from Diego in the 4th round. We took his fingernails, grabbed me right here to sweep me, and they were literally 4 to 5 inch gashes, 4 of them, all bloodied.
Wow.
And then he wipes the blood off my nose, and it just cleans me up. And then David Carmenito, he had my spit bucket. And he's the one I asked, is my nose bleeding after the 2nd round? He goes, no, it's not. And then afterwards he said, yeah, your spit bucket's full of blood. And so the whole bottom of my spit bucket, when you spit, I had to clear it out. But I was breathing through my nose, so I was swallowing most of it. But when I'd stop and spit and squirt something into my mouth to clear my mouth, he said, your spit bucket's all full of blood. It wasn't snot, it was blood. That was nice.
Wow.
Nice. I should have saved it. Dessert.
Yeah.
So
and
anyway.
the doctor thought you broke your arm, right? Did you have any x-rays done or anything?
Oh, yeah. Well, Mr. Murphy presented me my black belt. It was 13 years, 3 months, and 5 days of training.
Wow.
And which was a lot longer than most people. But I
Wait, did they take care of your arm before or after they gave you the black belt?
That was the next day.
Oh, next day, okay.
Yeah, I got presented, and so the next day I went to the doctor. And when I got out of bed the next day, I had 1 bruise.
Oh.
Started here ended at my toe.
That's not bad.
Not bad, just one bruise.
Just one bruise.
And I literally could not stand up. I literally I rolled out of the bed. I had to crawl to the bathroom to go pee.
Wow.
Okay. Finally worked my way up.
Yeah.
Went down to the doctor's office, Dr. Foster's office. They took an x-ray and they said, yep, it's broken, but it was a clean break. It was a clean snap, like this, rather than a splintered thing. And he said, if you take care of it, it should heal pretty quickly. Yeah. But it didn't change the fact that it hurt like crazy. And then...
How many days did it take for you to recover, by the way?
It took a few weeks.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't. But I never missed a day of show. I
really?
I didn't miss a single. I barely could stand up. I was all bruised and beat up.
What did the audience think?
Well, that's not the first time.
Yeah.
I've gone to so many shows with so many bruises and bumps.
But what do people think about it? Like,
you know what I tell them?
What?
Well, someone thought I was cheating.
Yeah.
I just showed you how I can do it. You see this? You should see the other guy. But anyway, so the next day I went to the doctor's office, and like I said, he said it was broken. Then LA Times was there.
And did they give you a good write-up?
Well, other people thought it was good. I didn't like it because it said, blind man earns black belt. Ticked me off. Once again, I had that ego of mine. I did not like when they mentioned anything about the site. That article, which was a nice article, it was on the front page. Front page of the Los Angeles Times sports section, with me with a kicking towards Terry Crook in the 4th round. But I never showed anybody that article for 20 years because of the title, Blind Man Earns Black Belt.
Right. Now, you were argumentative about having the way you earned your black belt. Why? Because it sounded like you did what you were supposed to do. You fought all those fighters. You broke a bone. Yeah. Got shot between the legs. I mean, why would you argue about how you got it?
Well, because I would tell people I wanted to get my black belt the way they got it. And they'd tell me, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And for 40 years, David, well, more like 37, 38 years, about 37 years, 38 years, I would argue that I did it the way they did it. And I did not understand what they were trying to tell me. They'd say, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And finally, it was only about 2 years ago, probably 2022, someone spelled it out for me. They said, Richard, when do you think in history another person is going to take on 10 men with no forward vision and the peripheral is 20/400? It's probably not going to ever happen again in history. It was then I finally understood what they were saying. I didn't do it their way. They didn't do it my way. I did it their way, but they didn't do it my way under the conditions I did it. Yeah. And it took my ego that long to understand what they were finally saying.
Well, that was an intense episode.
That was a very intense episode. A lot of punching and kicking.
I'm going to have to check tomorrow with my doctor if I got a broken bone just hearing about it.
Yeah, well, hopefully it was a clean break.
Yeah.
Well, so let's take a clean break from our folks.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
See you next time.
Swimming off.
Switching out.
It was probably the only time I have seen Rick almost broken.
It was probably a little bit too brutal, but we didn't want it to be a gift.
Richard Turner was left virtually blind at the age of 9 when he contracted scarlet fever. Ever since, he has been able to see only out of the corners of his eyes. On Wednesday, he earned a black belt in karate by fighting a series of 3-minute bouts against 10 different opponents, each of whom was fresh. By the time the test was completed, Turner's hair was matted to his skull, and it was a wonder he could hear having "Yah!" shouted at him for nearly an hour. But it wasn't his eyes or his ears that were a source of concern. It was his hands. When the test was done, friends eased him into the mat to remove the gloves and tape protecting his hands. The hands are really the essence of Richard Turner, who is called Rick by his pals. They are remarkable hands, hands any surgeon would be proud to affix to his wrists, hands with a tolerance for 2 milligrams or 2/1000ths of an inch, hands that can unerringly pluck the ace from a deck and have made him one of the world's greatest card dealers. sensitive hands that could be deadly to any unsuspecting person who challenged him to a fight. Discipline is the keynote of his life, and he acquired it through his martial arts training. That discipline provided the patience for up to 14 hours a day of practice with cards, honing his delicate fingers to their present state of dexterity and sensitivity. He prepared himself as a boxer, runner, gymnast, and dancer. It was the most concentrated thing he ever attempted. He tortured himself with workouts that elevated his heartbeat to the 180 level for an hour at a stretch. Still, he was nervous as he awaited his test. "As long as they don't take me away in an ambulance, I'll be happy," Turner had said. "You know, karate is a sport based on vision. It's a full-sighted person's art. I can only see peripherally, but I'm an overachiever, and I wouldn't have traded what I have with anyone."